Casa, the Spanish word for house. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the cost of buying a house in the United States compared to the cost of buying a house in Ecuador. We're also going to be talking about what do you get if it's that much cheaper in Ecuador to buy a house. Well, you must be missing out on something that you get in the United States, right? And does it come with a cow? And good morning, and welcome to another beautiful day here in Ecuador. The sun is out, and honestly, I just bought a house, so I know all about how to buy a house here in Ecuador. Although I'm not a realtor, and I'm going to leave a couple of realtors right below so that you know exactly what you're getting, where you're getting it, and making sure that you have all the documents in place and things like that before you move here. We're going to be talking about buying a house, but also renting a house because we have experience with both of those things here in Ecuador. And also, I lived in the United States for almost 30 years, so I know about the United States and buying a house there because we were this close to buying a house in the United States. We came from Chile right before this, which is totally different, and that's a whole nother episode, but the United States and Ecuador and buying a house, renting a house is completely different. Let me just give you a pro tip. When you move here, find a house to rent. And when you rent the house, you can actually barter for the rental property. They might say this price, and you can say, well, I have this amount of money per month. Let's go for this price. Then you go to the notary, you sign all the documents, and you are set to go. But you actually barter for a rental house. It's not saying like, oh, the gringo comes in and says, I'm not going to pay that, I'm going to pay this. No, it's everyone does that. And it's normal for you to say, okay, I have this amount of money. Let's go with this price. And the owner can say yes or no, and that's totally fine. But I think it's just totally different living here, finding a house to rent or buy compared to what you can do in the United States. And we're also going to be talking about the quality of living. How is it to live here with some dogs, with a family, with a kid of 8 years old? He's at soccer practice right now. And is it worth it to move here and go through all the paperwork and things like that? And well, how are the houses? So we have to be in a house in order to explain what housing in Ecuador is like. And honestly, it's a beautiful thing. The houses here in Ecuador are so nice, and the best thing about it is that there's no need for heating or cooling in the Sierra part. On the coast, then it's hot. And there's going to be air conditioning and things like that you're gonna want because it's so hot there. But here you don't need any heating or cooling in the mountains, especially if you're looking just on the outskirts of Quito. Even in Quito, you really don't need any heating or cooling. And you wear a t-shirt and shorts, or if you're Ecuadorian, you don't really wear shorts all the time. Let me know in the comments if you are Ecuadorian and you wear shorts here all the time. Like in the United States, to go to church, you could wear shorts. Or sometimes even on a very casual day, you could even go to work in shorts. But here, you always wear pants. And it's not very typical that you would wear shorts out. Anyways, the houses here are so much cheaper because you don't have to put in all of those different things. Also, property is much cheaper here. If you're looking at purchasing a property, you should, I think, look here in Ecuador. We did it, and this is what our process was like. First of all, you have to be very careful when you are purchasing a house here. The reason you have to be careful is because a lot of people don't have the actual documentation that you need. Hi, Moses.
Hi.
For instance, if you were going to buy a property here, you would say, okay, I want this property, and then you would say, okay, let's go to the notary. But some places don't do that, especially in the campo, like the very rural areas. And you want to make sure that you have all the paperwork for you to go to the notary, have all the paperwork there. Notary has the lawyers and everything there, and you can sign on the document and it gets transferred to your name. You pay the lawyers there in the notary, and then you get your documents after a couple of months of for us at least, a couple of months in Cayambe, going back and forth with the notary, making sure that everything's in place, and then you get your deed in your name. But I do know a lot of places in the Campo area, especially of Ecuador, they don't have the proper documents that you will need in order for it to go into your name. So make sure that you have that. And that's why a lot of people like me would get a lawyer. A lawyer is going to help you with all these documents and making sure that the money is handed over correctly. There are many ways to hand over the money. Our experience was you have to have the proper amount of money in your bank account and transfer it right on over in the notary. So for us, we did a down payment and we said, okay, reserve this house. And it was around $1,000. It has to be just something to reserve the house and say, yep, we're doing it. And then after that, you would transfer the rest of the money, which is a whole lot of money. Usually in Ecuador, in order to buy a house, you're going to have all the money down. It's not typical that you would go to a bank and say, I want a loan for this, because the interest rates are absolutely crazy for an investment in something. So you would go to a family member and say, hey, could I borrow this amount of money? And usually typical Latinos would live with their families until they could afford to buy a house themselves. So for us gringos, what you do is you put 10 to 20% down, which is almost the price of a house here in Ecuador. 10 to 20% could mean thousands and thousands of dollars. And a house in the United States on average right now is $400,000. So you think about 20, maybe even 30% that you might want to put down on that house is about the same price as you could get a small house here in Ecuador for. And a typical house here is going to have, well, typical is very different in every place that you go to, but you're probably going to have a nice yard, and you might even have a huge yard for $400,000. And you're going to have a beautiful house for $400,000, and you could pretty much choose wherever you want to in Ecuador to get that. The problem is that right now, you're going to be taxed a ton of money if you decide to leave Ecuador and go back to the United States and say, okay, I want to bring all of my money with me from selling my house and my property. You are going to be taxed on that, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to bring that money from Ecuador to the United States or the other country. So be very aware of that. It's very easy to bring the money into Ecuador, but because of course Ecuador wants you to invest in Ecuador, you're not going to be able to bring that money back out. And now Moses is dancing behind the camera. All right, Mo. If you were to invest here in Ecuador, do you think it's worth it? Do you like the style of living here? Do you like your school? What do you think about somebody who's thinking of moving here to Ecuador and purchasing a house? Is it a good idea or not a good idea? What do you think?
It's a good idea because it's way cheaper.
It's a good idea because it's cheaper. That's true. It is way cheaper. Just the housing alone is going to be cheaper, and that's why our gastos, which is like your gas and your electricity and water, those bills are going to be much lower because you don't need as much. What do you think, Mo?
And when we just had to pay for the house for the whole year, it was $20-something.
So that's another really good point, Moses. So we just went to pay our taxes on the house, and we have two properties in our name. There's the one with the house, and there's another one with the actual land on it. And it was insane to me that we paid $28 for our tax. And that's not just per month or for a week. That is for the entire year. I think my parents pay around $1,500 to $2,000 a month in the United States just for the tax on their house. And here you pay almost nothing, which our property is very simple. There's nothing crazy about it. But at the same time, $28, I mean, at what point do you even pay? I wish I could pay more actually so that there could be better infrastructure and things like that. But I mean, I was shocked. I asked the lady in this office and I was like, are you sure it's $28? She said, yes. I said, for the entire year? She said, yes. And I'm like, she said, it will go up next year. I'm like, how much will it go up? Oh, maybe like $10 or $15. That's insane to me coming from the United States where you pay on average at least $1,500 a month just for the taxes on your house, which is just crazy, the difference in how much you pay just throughout the years for your house. If you're investing in Ecuador, you are investing in a different style of life. The style of life here is going to be more campo if you want to live outside of the city. And even if you live in a city like Quito or Guayaquil, to me, Ecuador is all about exploring and being with nature. And for us, we wanted to invest in Ecuador because we love Ecuador, and we wanted a place in the campo, in the rural areas where you get to meet people that are out with their cows and their dogs and with their pigs in the morning. And we love that kind of style. And your style might be a little different. We have a friend who just bought a condo in downtown Quito, right next to Parque Carolina. And the reason he did that is because I think that the housing market is just going to get more and more expensive as Ecuador continues to improve. And I think you're investing in not just your future and an investment property for yourself, but also investing into your family. For us, we wanted Moses to be able to grow up here. And as we tell people, oh, we have a house here, we're invested in Ecuador, then I think people will say, wow, that's awesome. Like, that's really cool. You're not just here to stay for a couple of years and leave. We've been here for 4 years now, and the idea is to live here for forever. We love it here, and investing in Ecuador is a great choice for our family. So for $200,000, what could you get? Let me just give you an idea of what you would get here in Ecuador compared to the United States. In the United States, for $200,000, you might be able to get a 2-bedroom house in not a city area, but probably outside of the city. Nothing special, an older home, and you would have everything that you need. A small piece of property and a small house. Here, for $200,000, you're going to get probably a 3-story house. You're probably going to be in a gated community, and you'll have a guard walking around at all times of the day. You might have a pool in your conjunto, in your neighborhood that you live in. You're probably going to have neighbors right next to you, and you might be able to even choose you don't want any neighbors, and you could probably have a big piece of property and a 3 or 4 bedroom house. For a $200,000 house, really practically, our house that we are renting right now is going to be around that price probably, and you're going to have 3 stories, you're going to have 3 or 4 bedrooms, you're going to have about 4 bathrooms and a nice kitchen, you're going to have a maid's quarters, you're going to have an outdoor area for dogs, and you're going to live in a gated community where you're going to have security that walk around all the time. Friendly neighbors, you're going to be in a high middle class area, not super high class, but you're going to be in a mid-high class area for $200,000. Typically, when you're in the United States, you really have to think about what school district you're going to be in. For $200,000 in the United States, you're probably not going to be in the greatest school district. That's my guess. Here, you go to the private schools no matter where you are, so it doesn't necessarily matter. If you want to drive a long ways to bring your kid to school, no problem. For $200,000, you're going to have so much more than what you would get in the United States. And to me, that's just shocking. All of that is good and great, but there must be some downsides to living here in Ecuador and purchasing a house, right? Well, I mentioned one, which is be careful with your investments. You're really investing in the future. You're not probably going to get all of that money back unless it's just an amazing investment that you had in a house, and then it just doubles in price and you want to go back to the United States, you're probably not going to bring all of that money back unless something happens with the government. So just be aware of that. The other part is there's no heating, no cooling, and the house comes kind of just very bare minimum, bare bones, which I personally like. You get the house, the concrete structure, and then you get to do with it whatever you want to. The countertops will usually be there, there'll be a kitchen, and there'll be, the basic things in the house, but you're not gonna have heating or cooling, you're not going to have a fridge in your house that comes with it, or an oven that comes with it, typically. That's not always the case, but it's typically what's going to happen, unless you're finding somebody who's moving to another country and they wanna sell everything as is. But typically when you move to Ecuador, you're going to have just the bare bones house. So you might pay $200,000, but then you're gonna put in a few other $1,000 in order to purchase everything that you need for the house. So there's that part. Also, when you're purchasing a house here, you also negotiate. Just like rental properties that I was talking about, you're gonna wanna negotiate heavily on the purchase of your house as well. I mean, the worst that they can say is no. And this is very similar to the United States. You negotiate for the price of the house. And you can go back and forth, no problem. And typically, in our case, we just talked directly to the owner. And we negotiated with the owner and said, we can only do this much. Can you help us out here? And then we said, okay, but you need to fix up. So for the next 5 months, if there's something that goes wrong with the house as it is right now, you need to fix it up. And our other house that we purchased, that's a small, tiny house, it's kind of our retirement plan, is that we redid the entire kitchen. We have plans to extend on the house and expand. And honestly, I prefer it that way, just having the bare bones, the bare minimum of a house. And then over time, you can just continue to expand and make it your home. The place that Elise and I want to retire in, and Moses will hopefully come and visit us in. And that's our hope for Ecuador. We really love it here, and we wouldn't invest in Ecuador if we didn't love it. And honestly, if you can't tell by these videos that I love Ecuador and that Moses loves Ecuador, then I don't know what video you're watching, but we absolutely love it here. The weather is always perfect. You come back here in the winter in the United States and it's perfect weather here. You come back in the winter in South America, in the south side of Chile, Argentina, you come back here and it's always going to be nice. Think 70s and sunny every single day of the year with some rainy seasons in there. But it is honestly a great place to live. And for us, it's the place that we want to retire in and live in for the rest of our lives. So honestly, who am I to tell you where you should invest your hard-earned money? In the United States, in Spain, in Ecuador, it's totally up to you. I don't want to make that decision for you. And I don't think that you should make that either unless you visit the country. If you've never visited Ecuador and you're watching this video saying, I want to buy a house there, well, come here, live first, and check out where you might want to buy a house. A lot of people are moving to Cuenca and they're moving to the outskirts of Quito. And I honestly think that's great and awesome. But for me, I love being closer to a big airport like the Quito airport. So I'm only going to live a certain radius away from the airport because I work, I have a job, and honestly, I love my job and I don't want to stop for many, many years. And being able to be close to the airport if something happens with a family member, or just because I want to be close to the airport to travel and to do my job, which is a lot of travel as you've seen in these videos, then that's my choice. And that's why we wanted to live closer to the Quito airport, which is continually expanding and is one of my favorite airports I've ever been in. It's small, it goes to many places around the world direct, and I love that about the Quito airport. And I think that Ecuador is only going to keep expanding. And you see that in the houses being built, in all of the different apartments being built around here. There is so much development happening. The road construction and all these things that are going to make Ecuador, I think right now, a great place to invest in. I'm not an investor myself besides buying the house and different things that I do personally, but don't take it from me. Hopefully I'll have somebody watching these videos who will get in contact with me that will be able to share more details about what it is like buying a house here in Ecuador, because they're going to be able to tell you even more than me. My experience was simple. This was it. We were looking on Facebook, we saw this house, we've been looking for many months for buying a house, and we found this one. We couldn't believe the price, and then we went to go look for it. A bunch of other people were actually looking for it as well. The builder was there, the owner was there, and it just worked out perfectly. Then the owner had all of the documents, and we went to the notary without a lawyer, went to the notary, which I know you in the comments are going to say, don't ever do that. Totally fine, grab a lawyer if you want to, but the notary for us had all the lawyers. And so we talked to the lawyer there, and you pay up in the notary in order for those lawyers to do all this paperwork for you. But we went there, they had all the documents there. After we saw all the documents and we were with the notary people, we made the transfer and we paid for the house outright. if you are coming from another country and you're not Ecuadorian, you're gonna have to pay for that house outright. And typically, Ecuadorians as well are going to do it that way. That way you don't have to pay any interest on any of the house. So we did all of that, then we had to wait for the notary to do all the paperwork. They ended up saying that in one of the paperwork that Elise and I were not married and the other that we were married. So we had to go to a different office, change that, do all of this stuff, and then we were set to go. Now, we all have permanent residency here in Ecuador as well. So I think that's the first part. Check out Ecuador first, make sure you want to be a resident, and then after that say, okay, I want to live there. I want to invest in Ecuador. For us and for our family, that was the right choice. After that was done, we waited a couple of months and we had all of the paperwork set to go. I know some people who only wait a couple of days, and that's awesome. We were in no rush and the notary did it all for us. Then we paid the notary, I think it was well over $1,000 for them to do all of this paperwork for us, have it all set to go. We paid them and we got the paperwork. And then I went to pay our taxes for the beginning of this year, and it was $28 US, which is insane to me. But that was our experience, and it's not necessarily going to be your experience either. If you have an experience with purchasing a house here in Ecuador or in the United States, I'd love to see it in the comments. Also, if you're willing to be on my channel and share your experience, and the better way to do it, if you're investing way more than we invested into a property, then let me know. And I'd love to feature you here on the channel and let other people know what you did in order to purchase a house here in Ecuador. But I hope that this was helpful for you. I think it's just fun to share these stories of things that are on my mind, and we just bought the house and everything just worked out, and there were a couple of sleepless nights wondering if this was the right choice and if this was the right way to do it, and it was. And we're so thankful for that, and well, let me know in the comments what you think of our story. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video for today. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Check me out on Instagram and TikTok, Gringo y Latino, and we'll see you guys next time for another adventure. I don't know from my kitchen or not, but from somewhere in Ecuador, I think. We'll see you guys next time. But for now, enjoy your house.